Hello, this is this day Games, the developer of Chronos Trials RPG, and today I thought I would walk everyone through how I make my enemies in my game. I felt like this would be quite an interesting process to see how it all works behind the scenes and what goes into making every single character. So, first things first, we need to get the artwork for the enemy. I have bought asset packs for my game, all of them being on itch, so I'm going to use these 3 sets of art. And I'm going to paste them into my sort of sprite sheet for all of my enemies. So I'm going to grab this enemy and paste her in. And obviously she's a little bit too big for the grid. Every enemy needs to be 192 pixels by 192. So even though it's kind of a sin to scale down pixel art this way, I know it's you're not really meant to. I'm going to do that and then just kind of see, yeah, obviously we can see her face is a little bit wrong now. So what we're actually going to do is I'm going to paste that again, and this time just watch a little bit more closely as to how well she scales, and just try and find a good place where everything looks pretty much right. And we can see the face is starting to get a little bit more defined as we make her larger. But obviously none of this is perfect, so at this point I'm probably going to have to edit it myself. And I'm going to use, I think this is a decent size, so I'm going to take that, scale it down a little bit, and then I'm just going to go in on her eyes, and just maybe make this white as well, make that the eyebrow, and then possibly just play around until I see something that works. It's not going to look perfect. That looks a little bit wrong. Let's try a bit of that. Okay, obviously her eyes being different levels doesn't really help. Yeah. That looks even worse. This is what I mean. This is kind of the process I have to do with every enemy. Just making sure it all looks correct, or as best as I can with my very limited pixel art skills. If we zoom out, that doesn't look too bad. The eyes, yeah, definitely could be a little bit better. Maybe not making them pure white, just maybe making them a tiny bit darker. Maybe not that dark. There we go. I'm mostly happy with that. Like I said, it's not perfect, but oh, she looks very devious. I actually don't mind that entirely. Yeah, I think that looks better, I think. I'm happy with that. Cool, there we go. So that is the enemy artwork. Now, what we need to do, this is just for showing the enemy on the map. I now need to create a second image. And this is what you actually see in battle. So I'm gonna go back here, copy that, paste. And I'm going to export that. I haven't actually come up with a name for her. I should probably have done that before I started. But we can just call her Mage A for now. I also scaled all of the sprites by 2 times, just because it becomes very small otherwise. So we're going to go into images, enemies, and just export that there. And then we're going to save this. Awesome. Now if we go into our engine, go into enemies, and scroll all the way down. I don't want to spoil too much, so I'm just going to copy an enemy roughly of the same strength I want. There we go. We're going to call her Mage A for now, and we are going to look for Mage A. I saved her as an ASPRite file, that would be why. Mage.a.png, there we go. So I had a kind of a blank out there. Anyway, Mage A. We're now going to look for Mage A. There we go. And now we can see she is in game. Now I set the stats of every enemy using this custom parameters tool from Yanfly. So we can see minimum health is quite large at the minute. We're going to keep the stats roughly the same for now. This is definitely one of the stronger enemies in the game. There we go. And now we're going to copy and paste Vincent. He's kind of my template for a lot of the boss enemies I do. And we're just going to go into the third enemy sheet, again skipping over a lot of other things, and we can see we've now got our sprite. There we go. So if I were to set my starting position there, and just try and test the game, go into a new game, we can see, there we go, we've got a sprite in game now. Cool. Next thing is creating the items. Now I want to create both a set of boots and also a set of rings for this particular enemy, because we haven't got a lot of boots in the game. That's something I'm very conscious of, and I want to create an accessory based around marks because I haven't added anything mark related in a while. So we're going to go to the icon set. There we go. Now for the rarity of these, I'm thinking the boots are probably going to be a little bit rarer. Most of the boots in the game are quite common at the minute. So I'm going to go for epic and legendary for the boots. There we go, I'm going to copy those colors over. And then for the ring, I'm probably going to go unique because of the effect I have in mind for it. I don't think it will scale very well. Well, it will scale well, but that's the issue, it will scale too well. So having more than one of them would probably be not very good for balance. Cool. Now, really simply, I'm going to go over to my boots. I'm going to copy one, go over to the icon set, I'm going to paste it in there. Now if we look back at the enemy, we can see there's a tiny little yellow ring around the top of the boots. So I'm just going to copy something similar to that. So we can kind of see there's already a line going up here. So I'm going to take that, make it maybe try and match the color a little bit. There you go. So it's almost more orange actually. And then we're just going to add that to the boots. And then maybe just make a slightly darker tone immediately underneath it. Just to kind of personalize it a little bit more for the actual enemy we're getting it from. We're going to save that. And we're going to copy and paste it. And there we go. We now have the boots in our icon slots. And now I just need to do the same for the rings. I haven't actually chosen what ring I'm using here yet. But looking at the enemy, if we do, we're kind of getting a lot of purple and yellow. So I'm going to choose a ring that has some elements similar to that. I might grab another set of rings. Let's see if any of these suit better. I quite like this one. This one immediately stands out to me. Yep. So we're going to go with this ring, with the purple gemstone. We're going to go back to our icon set. There we go. And we're just going to copy and paste. Now, whenever I do unique items, obviously there's no real differentiation between the normal mode and the hard mode version. So whenever that happens, I add a red outline to my item, just to make it sort of stand out a little bit more and to give a difference between the two images. There we go. I believe Inflation RPG does this as well for a lot of its items. There we go. So we've now got that ring in there. And then the hard mode ring I'm going to put in here. Perfect. And we're going to save that. So now our items will appear in the icons. We can see I've already built a mark accessory. And what this one does is it uses a buff system that's been implemented where whenever we apply a mark, the effect triggers, and any code that's in between these two note tags will trigger whenever we consume a mark. And what this does is it adds a percentage buff to stat 0, and stat 0 is our max health. So if we go over to our ring, there we go, we can see these are in the files now. We have a ring. Whenever you consume a mark, gain 5% maximum health. Now this in itself isn't very strong, but I'm also going to add a heal to the player whenever this happens, and the heal is going to be based on the player's maximum health, meaning that every time we consume a mark, we increase our maximum health and we increase how strong that heal will be. So I have something that does something similar to this called Hunter's Idol, no amulet, and we can see we use the same thing here, mark effect, heal for the user's max health times 0.04, so 4%. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy that code. I'm going to go back to mark accessory, there we go. And I'm just going to add that into the code. But I'm going to make it slightly weaker just because it does more than Hunter's Idol, amulet. And restore 3% max health. We also want to give this a innate mark chance, so if the player chooses to equip this and have no other mark items, it still does something for the player. I think because it's a unique accessory, and the effect is decent but it's not overwhelmingly strong, I think a 4% buff to the mark chance is fair here. Plus 4% mark chance. There we go. Now I'm also going to add max item 1. This ensures that if we somehow accidentally get 2 of these, it sticks to having 1 in our inventory at all times, so we can't equip 2 of them. And we are also going to add unique. This is the rarity of the item, and this is using the filters at the very top of the screen when you're in the equipment menu. This is how you filter behind all the items. Each item will have like a keyword, a set of keywords that will be filtered using that note tag. So for example, unique. And we're also going to do the same with healing and also mark. There we go. So that's built the item. I also need to apply max item to some other items while I think of it. So I'm just going to do that. Ooh. There we go. Cool. So that is done. And we're going to copy and paste this. Mark accessory 2. And now I'm trying to decide what makes this one special. So obviously this is just an upgrade. Am I upgrading the maximum health buff? Am I upgrading how much you heal? Am I upgrading the mark chance? I think I'm going to upgrade the maximum health gain slightly. We're going to make it 6% instead of 5%. We're going to keep the restoration of 3% because I think that's pretty strong. But we're going to slightly increase the mark chance as well. It's also worth noting both of these items can be stacked on top of each other. If you have mark accessory 1 and 2, then the effects will stack. So the player will gain 11% maximum health, restore 6% health, and also get 9% mark chance. And that's just out of 2 accessories, which is pretty strong. Combine that with other things, such as, weapons that apply marks and other accessories that have triggers. Yeah, that becomes quite a strong build. Now this may be a little bit too strong, but obviously we'll know later on if that's the case. Now we're going to look at boots, because we did also add that. There we go. And we are going to just copy the gnome boots from earlier. Going to change the icon. There we go, to mage a boots. Now considering the first thing, the first item from the enemy did marks. I want to do something different for the boots. I don't like to give one enemy too many things related to the same mechanic, because let's say you're going for a crit build or an evasion build, and you come across an enemy that has just entirely evasion based stuff. That's not really what you're after. So you kind of don't have a reason to fight the enemy. So for this, I'm thinking, based on all the other boots I've done, I've got something for crit and evasion, I've got something for max health and defense, I've got damage reduction, I've got skill-based stuff. But I don't think I've got really anything for combos. I've got combo chance on the known boots, but nothing else really has multi-hit support or action times. So I think I'm going to, that's why I copied the known boots. I'm going to make this one purely based around combo chance. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 40% combo chance. Now obviously this is why it's epic, because it's pretty good. 40% combo chance. Let's increase that. Let's get rid of critical rate in a jersey. Now I also implemented a new mechanic recently, which you did briefly see, where I'm introducing combos as a mechanic and a build type properly. We had multi-hit stuff before, but nothing really supported it properly. But now we do. We have combo support. So for this item, Daisy Ring, attacks past the second in a combo deal 2 times damage. I want to copy that effect and put it on the boots as well. There we go. But what we're going to do is every attack past the second does an extra 25% damage. Every attack past the second in a combo deals 25% extra damage. There we go. We're going to make this epic. Max item 1. Perfect. And we're just going to copy that and paste it. Mage A boots 2. And for this one, we're just going to increase the combo chance to 55%. We're going to leave this ability exactly the same. I think this is enough of a buff, extra 15%. Because this is already a very strong effect for boots anyway, most of the boots are just slight support items in favor of certain builds. They're not meant to be incredibly powerful items by themselves. So 25% extra damage for every attack past the second, plus giving support for combo builds on top of that, makes this very strong. And we're going to change this to legendary. Perfect. So now we've created the items, we've put the enemy in game, as we can see. Now we just need to actually code the fight. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in, and this is what my enemy code looks like. We have 1 page for normal mode if we haven't unlocked all the items. We have 1 page for normal mode if we have unlocked all the items. We've got 1 page for hard mode where we haven't got the items, and 1 page for hard mode where we do. And then for bosses, we have a 5th page where they disappear when they're dead. So this character is going to be a boss. So we're going to go in. For the level, this is going to be a level 400,000 enemy. For the gold, they're going to give roughly about 400,000 gold. I need to check the enemies around this area and see how much gold they give, because I've forgotten. But that will be tweaks later on to match sort of what the going rate is at that point in the game. The enemy does have 2 items, and this is where I need to enter the icon numbers, and this is where above the enemy they appear. So we're going to go to armors, and we're going to see icons 733 and 734 for the boots. But we're just interested in 733 for now, because this is a normal mode, and the normal mode drop is this one. We're also going to look for mark accessory, and that's 735. So we're going to go 735. And then if we go in here, well, we need to delete all of these actually. Let's just do this 1 page at a time. So there we go. So we've got the 2 icons that appear above the enemy. This determines whether we can actually see what that item is, and that only happens once we have the item. So we're going to go here, armor. Do we have mage A boots? Yes. Then show the item. Actually, I'm going to swap these icons around. 735. Then if party has mark accessory, include that. Battle processing. I need to create the troop that this enemy appears in. There we go. So we're going to go and find Mage A. Add that. That actually creates the combat event. So we can now look for Mage A. And add that. Now this is kind of a template that I've built over the past year for every enemy. It's not the most optimal way to do it, but I've done it for so many enemies now, I understand how it works, that changing it at this point would be just more effort than it's worth. So I'll try and explain what happens at each stage for those who are trying to learn about the engine. If the player wins, I have a common event that triggers, and this just sort of does a lot of maintenance stuff. You know, it makes you lose an hour, it makes you it kind of sets up a lot of what the fight does once you win. This current enemy number, 184, this is for the pity system that's in the game. If you fight the same enemy numerous times, then you increase your drop rates, but then for this enemy it doesn't really matter because it's a boss, so you can't actually get any pity counter on this, but I still do this just to update the pity system in the game to say we fought a new enemy, reset all the drop rates back to normal. Okay, we can kind of delete this code. This is specific for if the player has like 3 of an accessory or something. But both of the items that this enemy drops are unique, so we can change this to does the enemy have, or does the player have Mage A boots? If the party has Mage A boots, then we don't need to drop it, so we're going to try and drop the mark accessory instead. Include equipment. Now, if the player does have the mark accessory and it also has the mark boots, then we're going to turn control switch A on. And this is what turns the label green for the enemy, which is why you have to fight it an extra time to be able to turn the label green, because it triggers at the very start of the processing. Ideally, it would happen at the very end, but just based on how I've built the system, it's just how it works. And like I say, changing it so that it turns green after the combat would require me editing 4 pages on every enemy in the game that exists so far, and doing that without any issues, which is quite difficult to do at this point, but it is something I will do in the future if enough people ask for it. So, turn out A. If we have the boots but we don't have the accessory, we start rolling, and this is where the drop rate stuff comes in. So we can set the maximum drop rate here and the minimum item drop rate, or like what's needed. So this item, I didn't mean to delete that. Max item drop, there we go. Was 775. For the accessory, I'm happy for this to be kind of a rare item. So I'm going to set that to 3% drop chance with a 20% max. So 970. So this means we have a 3% chance if a number between 1 and 1000 lands above 970 or equal to 970, get the item. But the max drop chance means if it lands above 800, start rolling the dice again based on what your luck is. And the more luck you have, the more rerolls you get of the item. So if let's say you hit 800 and you have like 100 luck, you'll try one more time, rolling between 800 and 1000. If you don't get it, if you have more luck, then you re-roll again, then you re-roll again, and it keeps doing it. And it re-rolls between the maximum item drop rate and 1000. So your odds get significantly better if you have even a little bit of luck, but the more you have, the more likely it is that the item turns into a 20% drop chance. And that's what this essentially does. This also calculates like pity chance and applies like any other things like gold sack or just any item boosting drop rates you have. So things like the skill tree and random events as well. And then here's just the code. If the item drop lands above this, start re-rolling. but if it lands above item drop success, then we get the item. Now we're going to change this to change armor. Max accessory. Nope, mark accessory. There we go. Increase that by 1. Play item drop sound effect. And we're going to change the text because at the minute it says greatsword. So we're going to change the icon to 733. That's the boots. We're going to change it to 735. There's the item. We're going to change these numbers to 25 because that turns the text red. And we're going to change this to mark accessory. And we're going to change this to accessory and unique. There we go. So this is a text box that comes up when you get an item. And we're going to close that. And then this is the re-rolling thing. If you don't, then start re-rolling for the item. Else. Now this is when, if we don't have the mage boots, then else do this. But if the party has the mark accessory, then we're going to say, okay, yep. Roll for the boots. So if party has mark accessory. Now the boots are epic. So that means we've got a 15% max drop chance with a 2.5% base drop chance. Same thing again, we're going to change armors. We're going to look for Mage A boots, increase by 1, rare, 733, found, 27. We're going to say found Mage A boots. Type boots epic. There we go. Now this I need to actually modify. Current luck equals 1,000. So this is basically saying if your luck is more than 1,000, do a reroll and divide your luck by 10. So at this stage in the game, I actually think 10,000 as a minimum luck for a rare item and 100,000 for an epic. Actually, no, let's keep that to 10,000 as well. As you progress, you need more luck to get the effect of luck, essentially. So that means that you get 1 luck for every level. So by this point in the game, you're probably level 400,000. So you're pretty much going to guarantee that you reroll once anyway. But if you invest more in luck, then that means you'll get more rerolls at this point. Anyway, if party has mark accessory, do all the checks. All of this looks good. Cool. Now, this is what happens if a player doesn't have either of the items. We just do a random number and we just choose one at random. So we're going to do between 1 and 2. And same thing here, we're going to make this first one the ring. So we're going to make that 970. Now, just to save a tiny bit of time, I normally copy and paste exactly. Just prevents any small differences between the 3. There we go. Again, set us to 10,000. Else, start rolling. There we go, 850 and 975. And this is the drop rates for the boots, same as before. So we're going to copy that. Yeah. And also set this to 10,000. Cool. So now, this is the boss related checks. So we're going to create a new one called Mage A Dead. Mage A Dead is on. Now we also have a switch for every skill point in the game to check if we have received a skill point from the boss or not. So is Mage skill point off? If it is, turn it on to say we've got the skill point. Increase our total skill points and skill points by 1. Do some text. And normally we'd give some enemies a relic if they're a special boss. This one probably won't be, so we're not going to get a relic for this hero. So I'm just going to delete all of this. We're also going to increase our maximum hours by 1 here. I'm just going to delete that as well. Perfect. Now this boss is going to give us 2 hours. And if we lose 3 hours. And that is the first page for the enemy done. Now I just copy and paste self switch A and I set this to 3. And this is what turns a label green. This is a red label, C3 is a green label. And like I say, we trigger self switch A to be on if we have both items. Self switch A is on this page, which makes it green. We're going to copy and paste again. We're going to make this one hard mode. There we go. This is our hard mode switch. We're going to change the level to 3 question marks, as is the same way with every enemy in the game here. We're going to double the gold value. Has 2 items, and we're going to increase these icon numbers by 1 to match the hard mode equivalents. If party has the hard mode version of mage boots and accessory, turn those on. Same battle event. If win, 1 battle, same enemy. Now we're going to check if the party has mage boots 2 or mark accessory 2. We're going to change this to self switch B. And we're going to increase the item drop rates for the mark accessory 2. We're going to make this an epic rarity despite being unique. This is just unique, just means you can only have 1 AV accessory. It doesn't necessarily dictate what rarity it is. We're going to increase that to mark accessory 2. 736 for the icon. There we go. Found mark accessory 2. And we're going to make this also 10,000 because that's kind of the rule I've got so far. If a party has mark accessory 2, now this is a legendary item, so we're going to make it a 10% drop chance with a 1.5% base. We're going to go mage boots 2, 734, mage A boots 2, and we're going to change the color to yellow. Legendary. There we go. Now, because it's a legendary, we are going to increase the luck minimum amount to 100,000 for the rerolls. Same thing again here. Going to increase the rarities slightly for hard mode. 975. Just doing the same process. Actually, I just realized I can just do, no, I'm already halfway there anyway. Mark accessory 2. I'll just copy and paste the mage boots. There we go. Going to increase the drop rate. There we go. Mage A dead. Same as before. Doesn't matter if it's dead in normal mode or hard mode, same thing applies. But this time we're going to make the switch Mage A hard mode. Hard mode skill point is off. Because we get a skill point from the same boss if we beat it in normal mode and in hard mode. Same thing again, increase maximum hours, increase hours. All of this is exactly the same. We're going to copy and paste it, self switch B. And we're going to make this green. And then finally, new page, Mage A dead. This is the page that appears if they have been defeated, so they're no longer on the map. Finally, we're going to make this same as characters. Actually, it already is, so it's perfect. This just means you won't be able to walk past it, which is an issue some players have had with some of the other ones. It's just because I forgot to set that. Direction fix means it won't change sprite when it's walked into as well. And that is pretty much everything there is to making an enemy. So if we go in, if you name yourself Skip, or Speedrun by the way, you skip the opening cutscene. There we go. Alright, so we now have our boss. And if we walk into them, we can see we start the combat, die immediately because obviously we're very underleveled for this. But there we go, that is the process of putting an enemy in the game. It took me 35 minutes. Normally it would take me maybe about 25, because obviously I was trying to explain things on the way through, but yeah, roughly about half an hour is how long it takes. In terms of testing the items, I haven't actually done that properly, but I can absolutely do that. But I did test something similar earlier just to make sure it works, and it does, so that's fine. But obviously testing items, testing the enemy works, drops everything, that's an extra 15 minutes. So every enemy on average maybe takes about an hour to implement, all the way through, plus testing and stuff. So yeah, that's why there's a bit of a wait on some of the updates, maybe about 2 weeks at a time, just because it does take me a while to kind of get the areas made and make sure it's all balanced well and similar things. But hopefully that was interesting to you. It might not have been, but hopefully it was to some of you. I just kind of wanted to share, kind of the process that I go through. And I think that's everything. So yeah, have a good day. See you later. Thank you all for playing if you do. It really does mean a lot. It's been an amazing launch weekend so far. So yeah, I'm very happy. Thank you.